Welcome to the Rotary Club of Jonesboro. We're very happy that you're here today. Got a good turnout. Mark Morrow will introduce our program.
Today, I get to introduce you to the man behind the Interact Club in JHS. He has done a significantly, just a banner job with leading that group there, and we appreciate him so much. But here we go. Jon Newman is in his 12th year of teaching at Jonesboro High School, where he's the Interact sponsor. He does an amazing job again. Jon is the lead teacher of the Business Communication Arts and Law Academy, BCAL, at JHS, and holds an MSE in Education Leadership from ASU. He is nationally board certified with a passion for teaching and works closely with career coaches and counselors at JHS. He is very passionate about what he does. He teaches AP U.S. History, AP Governmental Politics, and AP Comparative Governmental Politics. He'll be updating us on the successes of the academies at JHS. Without further ado, Jon Newman.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. I'm going to try to do a really good job. I know that we're Zoom tied, and it's been just a little bit. We started getting back to more normal school this year, so I've not had to sit tied to a Zoom screen in a little bit. So I'm accustomed to really moving around a whole lot. But I'll try to do a good job for you Zoom folks to stay here so you can see me. I appreciate all the comments that Mark made. He mentioned a young lady's name, Izzy Bond. For those of you who got to be here and hear her speak, were you just blown away by listening to Izzy when she gave her presentation? I don't want to take direct credit for Izzy Bond's creation because she was on a path and a trajectory for greatness long before she ever darkened my door. But she was in my classroom for every class that I taught, and that's a pretty awesome experience. She's also a product of the BCAL, or the Business Communication Arts and Law Academy. So I would like to say that at least maybe a contributing factor to her being such a great oral communication speaker. Maybe she gained some of those skills with us. And that's part of what I wanted to talk to everybody about today. Is to kind of give you an overview of what the school looks like. If I say career academies, probably everybody in here at least has some kind of an idea that the academies at Jonesboro High School over the course of the last decade, we've kind of gone through a transition. We officially did a name change. So instead of Jonesboro High School, it's the Academies at Jonesboro High School. Did anybody know, do we have any connections? We know that Nettleton has recently gone through that process as well, that they're doing career academies there. And you also know that because of school choice in Arkansas, that also means that schools are in competition over kids. So part of the reason why I'm here and part of my role is being the lead teacher for the academies. I was originally just the BCAL lead teacher, and now I'm the lead teacher for the entire school, is that I'm a sales pitch guy. So I'm to try to recruit kids and to try to make sure that I get kids in positions where they can be better professional adults, make sure that, and I tell parents this all the time, my go-to phrase when I have parent-teacher conferences is that my primary job as a teacher, and then on an exaggerated scale as a lead teacher, is to make sure that when your kid is 35 years old, they're not on your couch. They're out and they're making a living. I found that's a pretty successful strategy for a parent-teacher conference. Parents and I can always agree on that being a good strategy for teaching. They don't care what else happens as long as that's the goal. So I'm going to go through and kind of talk about some of the things we've got with regards to the school. Is there anybody here that likes The Great Gatsby? Has ever read Great Gatsby? So I have a lot of English teachers on my hallway. So I found that if I can give them something like if I mention Great Gatsby, that's a big thing for the English teachers. They like that. When I look at the slides that I kind of set up for this, it always makes me think about, for those of you that have either read it or if you've watched the movie, Gatsby talks about like the light that's on the other side of the dock. Like he's always looking at the light that represents the love and desire that he's always after. So in this case, I had mentioned that we're kind of like the light on the other side of the dock. So if you think about the high school, what the career academy process is, it's the light that's at the end. It's what we want the kids to aspire to be. It's what drives them and determines or sets a determination in them to try to become better and more productive adults in the future. Now, for those of you that are really, really tied to Gatsby and you know a lot about it, don't read into it too much because we know that leads to his death in the end. And we're hoping for no death at the end of this story. This is all good. This is career aspiration. So it's just about ambition. So here's where I wanted to start. Going to these meetings, when we got to come back pre-COVID, I always remember like going through and seeing the 4-way test on a regular basis. Schools are all about accountability. It's one thing to say that you do something, but if you can't prove that you're doing it, then then it's not worth a whole lot, right? So it made me kind of think about that four-way test. And, I've heard that in this room quite often, or when we were at the auditorium. But what I want you to do is, as I go through and give this presentation, and as I talk to you about what the academies at Jonesboro High School are doing, is I want you to hold me accountable. And I want you to use your test to hold me accountable. So is the things that I'm saying, are they true? Are they fair? Are the products that we're producing, the curriculum we use at Jonesboro High School, are they building goodwill? Are they building better friendships? Are they beneficial to all the community? Are they beneficial to the kids, to the families, and to this community as a whole? So hold me accountable with that. If you hear me saying something you don't think passes this test, throw a flag at me. All right, so I'm going to give you a kind of an overview, and I'm going to give you the short version. I know we only got like 30 minutes to be able to talk. Nobody wants to outlast that. All right, so here's the short version overview of what we've got as a product at the high school, and then I'll talk to you just a little bit about kind of a comparison between us and Nettleton, since that's our now rival career academy here in Jonesboro. And all of our students that are in our Annie Camp and MacArthur junior highs will go through a 9th grade course that is called Keystone, and in that Keystone course, they'll be introduced to various career interest inventories, things like that. I mean, everybody in here as a student has gone through something similar to that, where it's supposed to help you figure out who you are. But a part of the point here in the Keystone classes is to help them figure out some potential career ambitions, things that they might be interested in doing based on a certain skill set or based on some interest. So they do this Keystone 9th grade at Annie Camp and Mac. And then when they come to the high school, we have 3 career-based academies at the high school. Again, originally, the top academy there, Business, Communication, Arts, and Law. That's the one that for the last 5 years, I've been the lead teacher of. I can say this because none of my bosses are in here right now, but I always say lead teacher means that I can do administrative stuff and they don't have to pay me for it. Like come speak to large groups and try to recruit kids. But Business, Communication, Arts, and Law, that's the academy that I've been with for 5 years. This year's the first year that we have reduced down in terms of the total number of lead teachers, meaning I got a lot more responsibilities, and now I represent all 3 of the academies. So the other 2 academies we have are STEM, an acronym that most people know at this point, Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math. And then our last academy, and the largest of the 3 academies that we have in terms of student population, is the Academy of Health and Human Services. So I'm going to kind of give you an overview of each one of those 3 academies, show you what each one does. And then when we get to the end, I'll talk about like some of the partnerships and things like that we have an opportunity to set up. Also said before that if you can't prove what you say you are doing, then you're not, did it really happen? So I'm going to ask Mark, since you have your cell phone with you, I ran off today and left my cell phone. Do you care to just at a couple points today, maybe take a picture or 2? That way I can send it to the bosses and be like, hey, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Okay. Thank you, sir. All right. Kotter Assessment. Kotter is the tool that the 9th grade Keystone teachers, that's what they go through and use. So the kids will take this interest inventory and they'll get some results that'll look something like this. If you go through and if you were able to look up close, you would see that some of the things that are on this list are various careers and professions. And it tells them that based on your aptitudes and the questions that you answered, it looks like you would be good in hospitality, or it looks like you would be good in a law enforcement profession. So this is helping to try to guide a 9th grade student to start thinking about those careers and those college degrees. And then they have a conversation with those teachers in those Keystone classes, and then they make a determination on which academy that they want to be in. So they choose from one of the 3. The results of the Kotter Assessment doesn't guarantee that you're going to get one particular academy. Again, it's just an assessment tool to try to help guide those students. So we try to get them into the correct academy. So I'm going to go in an overview of each one of the academies and kind of get you an idea of what they do. And if you have questions as I'm going through it, don't take it as one of those like you just have to sit and be quiet. Feel free, ask me questions. I'm a teacher. I like getting questions. Engagement is a good thing. So we're going to start off with Health and Human Services. Health and Human Services is the largest of the 3 academies in terms of the total student population. They're usually at around 600 total students, 600 to 700 total students. I mean, it makes sense. In terms of largest employers, and that's exactly what we did a decade ago when we determined what career academies we were going to have, is we put up on a wall all of the largest professions, the largest employers in the Northeast Arkansas area and in the Jonesboro community. And we said, we need to produce products that can fit those jobs. We want Jonesboro high school students to graduate and fill the career void or the employment void that exists here in Northeast Arkansas. So we went through, and with Health and Human Services, I mean, 2 of your largest employers are 2 hospitals that are here. We have a growing hospitality industry with, the beautiful convention center that's here. So there's plenty of opportunity for those things, and those all fit within the umbrella that is Health and Human Services. The administrator for that academy is Mr. Matthew Steele. So we have 3 academies, 3 what in other schools, normal circumstances would be called assistant principals. So these are the academy principals. But Matt Steele is a responsibility, is leading HHS. The careers that are listed here at the bottom are the career fields, are what everything in that academy are supposed to tie back to. So they're supposed to tie back to a human service field, education and training, hospitality, tourism, health sciences, ag, food, natural resources. Now, I will say that from a trying to grow standpoint, ag is something that we're the urban school that's in the center of town, so we're a little less ag oriented than what some of your surrounding more rural based schools are. But that is something that we hope to extend going into the future, to expand on what agricultural and ag business opportunities there are for students that are at our school. So what's this look like? When students go through and select classes, they actually started that process today. So if any of you have 10th or 11th graders that are currently at JHS, know that they received an email today and they're picking classes. So the way that this possibly works is if you have a student, for example, that says, Mr. Newman, I want to be a nurse or I want to be a physical therapist, or they choose some medical profession, then what I would do with that student or a career coach or a counselor would do, if you look in the upper left-hand corner, it talks about principles of biomedical sciences and under the course sequence. So they would follow this medical science track. In theory, hopefully, if they have figured that out by 10th grade, they'd take principles of biomedical sciences. 11th grade, they'd take human body systems. And then in 12th grade, they'd have a combination of medical intervention and medical innovation. That's a semester and a semester class together. And we would hopefully get them in an internship or at least an extended job shadow at one of the two hospitals, get them an opportunity to do that. In terms of offerings, we also have career offerings through the Career Technical Center. Since that's on our campus and while they service other schools that are around the area, we do have some offerings that are specific to them. We also have a medical professions class. We have culinary arts. The end goal for all these is that they end with a certificate. They end with something that when the kid finishes its program in 12th grade, they can take that with their resume and then have a leg up on the competition in terms of trying to get professions, or it offers them the opportunity to get additional letters of recommendation if they're going to colleges or competing for scholarships and things like that. So these are other programs. Some of the things, just to give you an idea of what some of this stuff looks like, biomedical sciences, I'm blown away on a regular basis. So I'm the artifact collector that's at the school, meaning, again, if you can't prove what you said that you did, then it didn't really happen. So I collect a lot of artifacts in terms of what's going on in classrooms so that I can show the community what's going on. This is one of the biomedical science classes that is taught by Ms. Crawford. They are going through and actually suturing up. So they're learning how to give sutures and stitches and things like that. It's always amazing to me, like the stuff that she does in those classes that 10th and 11th and 12th graders are going through and doing. But a lot of these kids will be on the trajectory to go to med school later on. That's what they're actually doing those pictures, is they're doing sutures. Then I mentioned this a second ago. This is the program that Jill helps with a lot. She's through ASU, but she's on our campus a lot and helping with the creation of our teacher cadet program. And then what that's turning into next year, which is, again, that non-traditional track towards becoming a teacher. They're trying to expedite and speed that process up. So Jill's been instrumental in helping with that. Here's the next on the list, what we're adding. So going into next year, if anyone has a kid that's at the high school, or if you're looking for the potential of a transfer of a school, you do have an opportunity next year to start joining. Students will have an opportunity to join the NNDCC program, which is the lead into Naval Junior ROTC. One of the few schools around here that didn't already have a form of an ROTC program. So we are going to have that starting next year. When the construction finishes up on the front of the building, if you've driven by the school here recently, you know we got the 3-story addition that's going up. Once that addition is finished, fingers crossed that it's before the beginning of the school year, they'll then transition the construction over to what will become a volleyball gym, and then it will also include an armory for the ROTC because they have to have their own dedicated space for that. So that construction will be going on the east end of the football field now, where that building is that the cheer team and dance team kind of do their practices in, right behind the bank. So that'll be out of there, and they'll start construction on that new facility going into the summer, going into next school year. They'll start that. But anyway, we'll have this program coming, and that'll be based in HHS, the Health and Human Services Academy. With this, we wanted to have good leadership. So Lieutenant Colonel Leonard is the gentleman who's going to be leading that group. So he's 23 years in the Navy. He had 11 years enlisted service and then also had 12 years as an officer. He served at Camp David during the time in which George W. Bush was president. So you have to be there at Camp David as one of the security guards. So he's got some really cool stories. He's been great being there on campus and starting to recruit. Also want to say, it's not a military recruitment tool. So if any of you have dealt with ROTC before, there will be a lot of those students that might be interested in going into the military later on, but we don't use that as a recruitment tool. So it's actual classes, actual curriculum. They will get to do drill and cadet things, but it's not necessarily a military recruitment tool. All right, with regards to STEM Academy, Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math, that's going to be Miss Ellen Webb. Miss Ellen Webb was the BCAL counselor last year, and she's now transitioned. She's got promoted up, so she's in that principal spot now. So the career and college degree areas that are there would make sense. And the fact that you're talking about engineering, another big deal here for Jonesboro is we're an expanding community. So there's a lot of opportunities for engineers to, to get in there and work on plans on our campuses even. There's been a lot of opportunities for that. So there's information technology stuff, computer programming, some of your most rapidly expanding professions that are out there, not only in terms of Northeast Arkansas or Arkansas as a whole, but we know under Governor Asa Hutchinson, that's been a big deal with him during the time that he's been governor, is trying to make sure that coding is something that all students have access to, and then we're turning that into professions. So what's that look like for STEM? We have programs like this. Again, these are our ties to our career technical center, but we have engineering programs, we have HVAC, welding was added here about 4 years ago. That's become a really great program. I mean, you're talking about students graduating high school that are going out and starting jobs that are like $60,000 a year. And that's pretty amazing to try to think about an 18 or a 19-year-old having an opportunity to start a profession like that. But they're certified when they leave the Career Technical Center, when they leave JHS for those positions. So really good in terms of creating that competition and helping JHS students and graduates get a step or a leg up on all that competition. We have these posters. If you walk through the school, and I'd invite any of you as we start to open the doors back up, we'll start doing tours and stuff like that again. So if anybody or the group as a whole ever wanted to come in and take a tour of the school and kind of see what's going on and give me a chance to put my money where my mouth is, you can tour. We give you a tour, have students give you an ambassador tour going around. You'd see these posters, though. These posters are set up to try to help guide students in terms of the careers and the professions that are in the community, what the schools and the academies represent. And then again, these things tie back to that course sequence selection that we were talking about before. So what does it look like in terms of products? Ms. Avery is our engineering teacher. She does both engineering and she does robotics. If, again, you didn't already realize, there's a lot of construction going on Jonesboro campuses. We've got the high school stuff that was going on. I mentioned that before, but MacArthur Junior High is also doing a big addition right there in the middle of their campus. So Ms. Avery was able to take her engineering students over to MacArthur and to sit in on what they refer to as the three-leg stool meeting, where you had the engineers, the actual contractors who are doing the building, and then the client, the representation from our central office staff and from administration at MacArthur, to see that interaction take place between the customer who's having the product built, the builder, and then the engineer who actually put the designs together. So that's a pretty awesome opportunity. I mean, our engineering students who are seeing those professions play out in front of them, the things that they're ambitioning to do. So that's pretty cool for them to go through. We also have a very competitive robotics team. So this is an extracurricular that's attached to that STEM Academy. One of the teams, the Hurricane Katrina team, is I think what they named themselves. They are now qualified to go to the world competition. So robotics world competition will include one of the JHS teams that's taking place in Dallas coming up next month. So that's the group that's represented here. They go through, build these robots, do all kinds of really awesome stuff with it. We have recently finally got to host our first in like 3 years robotics competition on campus. COVID had kind of made that difficult for the last few years. But anyway, we have a great robotics club also. That's the VEX Robotics. Yeah, VEX is the sponsor name of the overall competitions. Yeah, VEX World Robotics. All right, the last one that's here, and this isn't to say necessarily favoritism. Again, I got to say this because I don't want my bosses to hear that I'm giving favoritism to one academy. But the one nearest and dearest to my heart, the one that produced Miss Izzy Bond that was here, is BCAL, Business, Communication, Arts, and Law. A little bit more information. Again, that's the one that I have taught in for 8 years and then been the lead teacher of for the last 5. So information a little bit different here, but Mr. Heath Roberts has been my principal for the entire time that I've been the lead teacher there. So he and I are kind of like the two-man tandem that works for that academy. Mission statement that's there, I put on there specifically because I want to talk about this. We struggled when we were trying to get this together. You know, it's one thing to say STEM or to say health and human services. I mean, that kind of leads you in the direction of exactly what careers and professions you're talking about. But like if I say business, or someone gets a business degree, then you're still left with a vacuum or a gap in terms of knowing exactly what it is that that person wants to do or what professions we're trying to prepare kids for. So what we decided on was this mission statement, and to try to make everything we do about creating a skill set in a group of students that can transfer to any profession that the kid can get into after graduation. So like the pushing of soft skills, learning oral communication skills, things like that. Our motto is the power behind the storm. Because if you think about hurricane is the overall motto. We are the power, in fact, behind that storm that's at Jonesboro High School. So that was the motto for the group. In terms of the careers and the things that are there, so we have a law pathway. We have law enforcement. We also have pre-law. Pre-law is an in-house track, meaning that it's not through ADE. Arkansas Department of Education, that's one that we created because we have law as a growing profession here. There are plenty of law offices and opportunities for students to go into that field. So we created a pre-law track. Again, goal being that they would go through 3 courses, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade year. That would tie them to a college degree program and hopefully get them into law school later on. So it points them in that right direction. We do have a law enforcement track. Can anyone think of why there might be an issue with a law enforcement track for a student when a student graduates at the age of 18? Why there could be a potential problem? I think I heard it back there. What'd you say, Judge? You can't get hired till you're 21. That's a difficult sell. We're going to tell a kid that they're going to go through a program and they're going to graduate at 18 and they just got to pause for 3 years until they can get a job. So we had a little bit of a struggle with that when that originally started off as a career and technical program, an NEA's CTC program, and we brought that over into the high school and tried to, I don't want to say we took it away from being law enforcement. It's still law enforcement, but it's a criminal justice preparatory program. So students that are interested in law enforcement can now go get the criminal justice degree, and it ties directly to that. So we kind of morphed it just a little bit to make it more meaningful and purposeful for a student. Now they can see how it ties to the criminal justice degree as opposed to a stopgap until you're 21 if you get that degree. But we have had a lot of kids go through that and then end up becoming law enforcement officers after they're 21. We have, I think it zooms in on each one. Mention those two. We have audio and visual communication tracks. We do have a TV production studio that's there. If you ever watched the JHS, the warning video, which many of you probably have recently, we had the state playoffs. Both of the girls and the boys went through and kicked some tail in terms of state playoffs. The JHS, the warning is a YouTube channel you can watch that has live coverage for all of those events. So that's been something that we've kind of advanced on over the course of the last few years. It started off as just student productions, and now it's the students doing cameras, but we have a partnership with a local radio crew, and they're going through and doing live streams for those games. We have our visual arts. We have all of the art programs that are there. And again, the careers that we try to tie that stuff back to are marketing, sales, finance, business administration, and management. In terms of certifications, all of the academies that I've mentioned and all the programs have some kind of industry certifications that are attached to them. The ones that are specifically in BCAL, WISE, financial literacy, basically anything that Microsoft makes, we have certifications for kids to go through. And of course, you can transition that into tons of different professions. I mean, there are people that in this room that are using these types of tools every single day. With graphic design, they go through and use the Adobe InDesign, Adobe Photoshop. So graphic design has been a growing program that we've had for the last couple of years. We do have career technical offerings as well in BCAL Academy. So that's auto service technology, auto collision. Those technically are under the BCAL umbrella. The poster that we have looks kind of like this. So this has been my baby for the last few years, creating this, trying to make this advanced, trying to help kids be able to find their way through course selections, trying to get them up to these careers and these professions. So a zoomed in version of this, you would go through and see something similar to what I showed you earlier, where you're picking a class 10th grade year, 11th grade year, and then you're choosing an elective for your 12th grade year, but it all ties back to whatever that career, whatever the college degree is that you're interested in. So those are what you would see on the wall as you walk through the high school for BCAL. Artifacts. So what are students producing that show that they're doing what it is that I'm telling you that they're doing? Pictures are great artifacts, but the students also have portfolios that they're creating. Credit to the state of Arkansas, they required here a few years back, they started requiring that all students who graduate have a four-year plan, just a short version of what they call it, just a 4-year plan. We do that, and we do that on a stepped-up scale where we try to track the students over 4 years. And, we continue to ask them question year by year of, are they still interested in the same career, the same profession? Are they picking classes that will contribute to getting to that career profession? So we track that. They all create resumes prior to graduation. Soft skills, we really push that. Oral communications, all the BCAL classes, they're giving presentations in some way, trying to make sure that they're learning the importance of making eye contact. They're learning the importance of voice inflection, learning the importance of a good firm handshake, because that's something that, if we kind of admit it, there's a lot of graduates that are going out at 18 and they're not good at those skills. Those are things that are severely lacking with a lot of 18-year-olds after graduation that they didn't pick up on. So we're trying to fill in that gap. Job shadowing, I'm going to talk about here in a second. We're talking about partnerships. Capstone, short version, is like, you think about a senior English class and they're doing a senior paper. Well, the senior paper in this case would be like, what has your experience been for 3 years in this academy, and how are you going to use that college degree or get into a profession? So that's kind of what the capstone is. They do some kind of a paper or a project that's tied back to their academy. And that takes us to our primary stuff. And this is where I wanted to have a little more Q&A and us to be able to talk about things. So help us to be able to help you. What are we looking for? So I've got a piece of paper over there in business cards, and I'm going to stick around like after the meeting's over with. The products they'd be doing in real life. So like, for example, with the Gearhead Challenge, we had students not only going out when Gearhead Challenge was going on with handing out water and things like that, but we also had the TV production students do some filming and created a commercial that was actually on the TV in the Gearhead stores to promote the upcoming Gearhead Challenge when those were going on. So we want to do things where the students get an opportunity to practice those skills out in the community in some capacity. We recently had the Be Pro, Be Proud employment event. You might have seen that on the news. They had news coverage there. If you looked at the Jonesboro Sun, I was on the front cover of the Jonesboro Sun teaching a young lady how to drive a semi-truck. I'm going to be honest with you. I know nothing about driving a semi-truck. But they looked at me and said, you look like you know what you're talking about. Let me show you how this machine works. I'm gonna give you a 60-second tutorial. So they showed me at about 60 seconds. And we only had one young lady that hit a pedestrian in the simulation. It got better after that. But anyway, they took a picture, and that was a really amazing event. That's going to be a cornerstone event going forward. You're going to hear that event next year, because what I want to do going forward is to work with these people to get those kids that are in that 10th, 11th, and 12th grade course track to 12th grade year. They go to Be Pro, Be Proud and sit down in an interview and get a job. That's what this event was. We had some students that got a chance to actually do live interviews for real jobs. You know, what other schools have an opportunity to do that? No disrespect to any other school that any of your other kids are in, but tell me what opportunity they had to sit down with live job interviews for $60,000 to $100,000 a year jobs. You know, that's an amazing opportunity, and I kind of stole that, and that's going to be a program that JHS is going to go and run in the near future. So that's going to be great going forward. In terms of guest speakers, we're always looking for an opportunity for speakers. Teachers are always looking for people to be able to come into classrooms. Zoom does afford us the opportunity. While, I mean, we can have some irritations with Zoom. It's not as good as having face-to-face interactions, but it does allow us an opportunity to be guest speakers in classes and things like that. So if there's anybody interested in being a guest speaker, you can do those types of things. I'd ask, just let me know that you're interested. And when I see your career profession and a teacher tells me they want a particular person for some field, then I can switch over and I can put you in contact with that person. We've had an HHS Medical Professions Day. We had a Women in STEM Day, since in the STEM Academy, they have a gender issue in the fact that it is a little bit more difficult sometimes from an academic standpoint to try to get women into STEM professions. So we tried to gear that particular speaking opportunity to have women who are in those professions to come and talk to young ladies about the importance of getting women into these various STEM professions. So we had that. We're currently working on an entrepreneur day. I'll give you a short version. The thought is talk to somebody or have a person who has created a business before and walk students through what that process is like, what it was like trying to find a location, trying to recruit and trying to advertise for customers, getting a loan from the bank to try to acquire the building, and have people be able to talk about these various steps in creating an individual business. So we're kind of working on that one right now. So if anybody from the industry is in here can help with that in any capacity, we'll have an opportunity for that pretty soon. Job shadows, we have a progressive program. 10th graders are allowed an opportunity for 2 job shadow days. They get one in the fall, they get one in the spring. They're still figuring things out. 11th graders, if in 10th grade you chose a particular profession, in 11th grade you choose the same profession, you get to extend out on your job shadows. You get additional job shadow days. You get 5 in the fall, 5 in the spring. And then as a senior, the hope is that if you have stayed with a profession 10th grade year and took a 10th grade class that's tied to it, you 11th grade year are still interested in it and again took classes that are tied to that profession. And by the time you're a senior, we've built some partnerships and maybe some opportunities to actually create some internships. So that's the goal on what we're looking for job shadows. It can be a 1 day, it can be a half day. If you want to bring a kid in for 5 days or 1 day a week for 5 weeks, we will accommodate however it works for you, as long as you're willing to kind of bring them in and show them what the ropes are. And then, of course, on the largest scale, internships. But I don't want kids going out to internships unless they've built some kind of partnership. I don't want to have a senior that may be kind of sort of interested in something, and then we're trying to send them out and they're in your way for a period of time. I want to build the partnership first, let you gain the trust, let the rapport be built, and then send them out there for the internship. So that's what the goal is on that. The paper that I've got up here for people to be able to, if you're interested in any of these things, I've got paper here where you can go through and write your name down, your preferred contact information, and then just put a check in a box for like which of these things that you want. And if mentorship is the only thing that you want to try to do, then you can select just mentorship. If you're interested in saying like, hey, I'll do anything and everything, then put a check in every single one of those boxes. So that'll be over here once we get finished in a minute. And then just contact stuff, people that are there. I'm Jon Newman, lead teacher of the Academy. The other lead teacher is Mr. Dan Mullins. So there's our emails. I have phone numbers that are on the business cards that are over there. So anybody that's interested, or if you think maybe it's not you that's interested in this, but you know somebody that's out there in the community somewhere that would be interested in helping with one of these things, grab one of those business cards, take it. I'll give you my cell phone number. That's my job as lead teachers, build these partnerships up and try to make sure they get these kids out there and get them jobs. And again, make them a 35-year-old that's not at home staying on your couch. All that to say this. What questions have you got for me?
Norman Stafford. I have two questions. First, what occurs if a student changes his or her mind in, let's say, first year or second year, or finds that although they've taken the test, that they don't enjoy the work that is going on in that particular discipline?
So I would give you that and then ask you this question. How many people had a college major in here and then changed their college major after they went in on day one? You may change your college major?
I did it about 4 times.
So if you changed once or if you changed 4 times, that's an expensive thing to do, right? I mean, if you go through and you change this multiple times. So do we have kids that change? Absolutely. I don't think it's a bad thing though. For a kid to come in 10th grade and say, you know, the Kotter Assessment said that engineering is what I'm supposed to go to, and then they get into either an engineering class or just a math class at 10th grade that can be a difficult class. We absolutely have kids sometimes that'll come and be like, Mr. Newman, I'm in engineering, but I don't think I can do this. Like, this lady's killing me on this test that she just gave me. So what is the process like? I think you asked that question. Same as what it is for magnet schools. If anybody's familiar with what magnet schools are, once you're signed up in a school, you finish the year out in that school with the knowledge being that you can transfer to a different magnet once you get into the next school year. Works the same way for us. It's less invasive for us, because instead of us having to have like a different bus route and a different pickup time and all that kind of stuff, if a kid tells us that that's an issue, and we're just like, we'll go see that counselor, you know, like we can send them to it. So it's a little bit less invasive a process for us to transition. It absolutely does happen. Our hope is that if you figure out what you don't want to do when you're 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, that's just as important as someone who finds out what they do want to do in 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, because it saves you all a lot of money.
Since I taught literature, in what area do you find students taking things like The Great Gatsby?
So anyway, like if I say core content areas, someone who's in education, you know, core content. So we're talking your English class, your math class, your science class, your history class, right? Your 4 content classes, regardless of what academy you're in, you're taking all 4 of those. So a student could be exposed to reading something like Great Gatsby in any of the 3 academies through their literacy class. Or through their English class, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade year. Now, they don't actually read Great Gatsby this year, what hurts me a little bit, because that's probably the favorite thing that I read when I was in school, hence the reason why I use a quote, or it kind of made me think about it. But anyway, they still get access to all those. I teach AP US History, and in US History, I'll have BCAL students, STEM students, HHS students all in one classroom. So mine's not so specific to one particular academy. That's more of what they choose in terms of their elective classes, that impacts a little bit more. Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, I have a question about dropouts. We heard a lot during the pandemic about students just not showing up or not doing their work, et cetera, et cetera. How did you combat that, or was it even a problem for Jonesboro High?
Girl, that's a fight that's still going on right now. we are still absolutely in the trenches with that. The purpose of the academies from the very beginning, because I mean, dropout rate is not a COVID. It has become more exaggerated in COVID world, but it is not an issue that has been born by COVID, right? Dropout rate has been something that's important and has been an issue for a long period of time. So part of the reason why we did career academies in the very beginning was to be able to attract students and to make students more interested in being in class, because rather than us saying, well, what is the goal? The goal is to get you graduated and get you a diploma. We can now say it's to get the diploma that then ties to this career that's going to make you $60,000 a year. You're going to make more than me. So that was what a lot of that goal is. It has helped, pre-COVID. It still helps us in terms of what we're dealing with COVID, but we are absolutely still fighting that battle right now. One of the biggest issues we ran into is in registration. Last 2 years with kids not being on campus, counselors have a big struggle. I have a big struggle trying to have the face-to-face conversations with the kid to help them see the course sequences. So earlier, like an hour before I came here, I was posting on Google Classroom for each of the 3 academies, because the counselors are doing online class registration. And I was trying to post helpful information for each student to help them see those course sequences. If they can see that, then they're less inclined to try to drop out. And good news is that while dropout rate has been an issue, it is something that is improving and will be better this year than what it was last year.
My follow-up to that is the Interact Club, and we really appreciate your help with that. In years past, there was a club time, and then at one point that stopped. So do they have a time once a month or at some point that they actually get to meet, or is it like extracurricular after school?
So a lot of the students that are in Interact Club, that's a really good question. A lot of the kids that are in Interact Club are also in Amnesty International and Model UN, and they're in volleyball. And so we had an issue with the schedule in terms of providing enough time. When we had a seminar period on campus that allowed, and that's kind of what you're talking about, we allowed specific where you could have club meetings and things like that. We don't have that anymore. So anything that you do has to be preschool, before the school day starts, or after school. So we do have allowances for being able to have meetings, but then you're in competition with all of the other meetings that have taken place. I have found good success in moving a lot of our meetings in a virtual capacity, meaning, posting volunteer opportunities, having kids come by and sign up for things, or even electronically sign up for things. We've had some good success at doing those. It's precious real estate when you're trying to go through and create a master schedule that's supposed to be focused on the implementation of curriculum and graduation, and then trying to build in those extracurriculars. So the period's not there. It's got to be before school, after school, but then you're in competition with all these other clubs. Good news, the second largest group that is on the entire campus at Jonesboro High School is Interact Club. And I won't take credit and say that they're in there because they like me, but there's quite a few kids that are in that club. So we recruit, try to get a bunch that are in there. Any other question? So if they live within the confines of the JPS school district and they live in excess of 1 mile from any particular campus, then yes, the bus will come pick them up from wherever. So if you sign up for having your elementary student be in VPA and you live completely on the north side of town and you're not close to where VPA is, you'd sign up for bus, and in that transportation system, they would make sure to come pick you up. And that's major credit to Mickey Long and the folks that are at the transportation department, because man, that is a gigantic puzzle that they put together every single year. And that's another reason why you only have you only get to transfer to a different school at the end of the year, because that's so much that goes into those bus transportation routes. But they do that. So yes, anywhere inside the Jonesboro School District, if you say that you want to go to that elementary, they will come and pick you up. They'll set a bus route for that. High school, not as much an issue. Transfer One Academy, we're all in the same building.
So is there a way that since the academies were implemented, how do you track the success of this model and this program versus what came previously?
So, probably the biggest struggle that we've run into with regards to COVID, outside of the graduation rate and the lack of engagement, has been tracking. I mean, for the last 3 years, we've been so far removed from normal school and just struggling to try to get kids in that for the last 3 years, tracking's been extremely difficult to try to get this stuff. We're just focusing on trying to get this kid graduated. I mean, let's just be honest, it really has been. Now, pre-COVID, let's talk realistically about what it was before. These are the things that we use to try to track students 9, 10, 11, 12 to make sure that they're doing the things that are needed. And then following up with our business advisory members, which is another thing that we have that I may hit some of you up at some point as we make changes and transitions to our advisory board. Each of these 3 academies have advisory boards that are representative of the career clusters and college degree programs. And we follow up with those folks about, hey, did you hire any of our kids? What kinds of products are they producing? Are they someone that you'd hire again if you got a chance to? Have you had to turn any away? So we follow up with businesses. Our 3 career coaches who are from ASU Newport, but they're on our campus, we have one for each academy. They have started, as of this year, a follow-up program where they go through a list of last year's graduates and try to make periodic touches throughout the year, phone calls to try to ask that kid, are you going to college? You said that you wanted to do this. Are you on track to do that? You're not in college right now. Are you working? Where are you staying? And just try to make these contacts. So we started trying to do that because it's one thing to track them into a graduation, and then it's another thing to track them post-graduation. And that's much more difficult to try to do. But we did implement that program with the 3 career coaches this year to really try to beef up on that tracking post-graduation. Good. So again, I'll be here. I'll stay after the meeting. I've got that sign up over there. And again, real simple, just for you to check off on anything that you might potentially be interested in helping out with. I appreciate it. And there's cards too.
John, thank you so much for a very informative presentation. I can certainly say that Jonesboro High School and the classes are much different than they were when I went to school a long time ago. It's amazing. Okay. Next week, we will hear from Mayor Harold Copenhaver, State of the City update at the auditorium. So please, if you come here next week, you'll be here by yourself. There may be a couple people. Al said he might have a problem, but anyway, the rest of us will be downtown. Looking forward to it. Hope to see you there. Thank you. Rotarians, our 4-way test of the things we think, say, or do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you very much. Hope to see you next week.